Bring this meeting of the Alexander County Board of Commissioners to order. It is Monday, December the 10th, 2012. Let me get to my agenda. For the invocation, I call on Commissioner Larry Yoder, and then for the Pledge of Allegiance, I will lead us in the pledge. If you would, please all rise.
Let us pray. Our kind and most gracious Heavenly Father, we appreciate the opportunity that you've given us that we can be here tonight in a free country. Lord, we'd ask that you put your blessings upon our military personnel, both at home and abroad. Be with this military personnel that was killed in action in trying to save someone else in Afghan. He was doing his job and was killed in the line of duty. And we'd ask that you would hold his family in your arms tonight as they have lost another loved one. Lord, we'd ask that you'd be with our local leaders, our state, our federal leaders. Help them as all these new folks will be taking office in January. Help them that they will do the things that need to be done and do it in a way that would benefit the people of our country. For Lord, we ask all these things in thy name. Amen.
Amen. Well, I guess we need to pledge, don't we?
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you. We have a special Key to the County presentation to make tonight. Are you going to do that, Berkey?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
If Christy Elder will come up to the podium. I'm going to leave it in the boxes up as we can. And also you will notice that your name is spelled incorrectly. We're going to
Berkey, turn that microphone.
As information for everybody, and it's my pleasure, Christy started working for Alexander County in 1978 in the administrative department. In 1980, she transferred to the library where she worked to build and maintain the vertical files in the local history room and helped at the front desk. When the library added the bookmobile to its services, then Director Steve Farlow chose Christy to drive the route. I waved at you several times, but you didn't wave back. During the years the bookmobile ran, Christy and the ladies who rode with her visited rest homes, daycares, and community centers throughout the county. Christy's time in the library in recent years was spent primarily at the front desk, finding the right book for each person who visited the library and providing people with the resources and assistance they needed. And that's a very important function. But working at the library included much more than just checking books in and out. So Christy has done everything from planting shrubs, that's good to know, to holiday decorating, to genealogical research. Her service has been a part of what makes the Alexander County Library what it is today. And she will be missed by the staff and library visitors alike. Luckily, retirement means more free time to visit the library, so we wish Christy all the best and hope to see her soon, even if it's on the other side of the desk. Congratulations very much for your service to the library and to the county.
Christy, you don't get a picture with Tony and Margot up here with you? If y'all would like to do that?
No, Tony don't want to.
Tony doesn't want to? Okay. Okay. I just thought I'd ask. They're family. I thought I'd ask. Well, you're welcome.
Well, now, Micah might make the picture and not put it in the paper if y'all would like to have one for the family.
Well, Chris, if nobody else is going to say anything, you're not going to talk, we'll talk about you for a minute. You've worked with the county library for years, and I've known you for a long time. And I just want to tell you personally that It's been a pleasure working with you and knowing you. And I'm still going to know you, though, okay? I still know who you are. But I just want to say that I think it's a tremendous asset that you were able to.
Departments, people change jobs. At the library, we didn't change jobs, we just changed directors.
Change directors, that's right. But you've been there for a long time. We appreciate your service and everything that you've done for the Alexander County Library.
I just have to say, too, being on the library board, that Christie, I think the library and the functions of the library are one of the crown jewels of the services that the government, Alexander County government provides to the citizens, and you were an important part of that. So we really appreciate what you've done for the county.
All right, next, Commissioner's report. Is there any commissioner that has anything they'd like to tell about?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to explain why I almost sat down before the Pledge of Allegiance. In Larry's prayer, he recognized a SEAL who lost his life saving the life of a doctor in Afghanistan. And that flashed or caused my mind to flash. I have a genetic quirk that I start watching TV and then I go to sleep and I'll wake up 2 o'clock in the morning and everything's going. And I woke up one day last week and I heard a news report about a child, and I don't remember the exact age of the child, but they had done a report for school. And in their report, they had made mention of the fact that their grandfather, who was a Vietnam veteran, had mentioned to the child how he offered prayer to God for protection of his troops and himself and so on. And there was a citizen in the community that objected to that paper because it referred to the child praying to, or in the paper it referred to somebody praying to God. And I woke up because I couldn't believe we had gotten that backward in this country. And then I found out that that child lives in McDowell County. And it just shocked me that we have gotten so, I'll say, intolerant that it's improper to offer a prayer, or it's improper to, for a child to write a report about what their granddaddy told them about service in Vietnam. And that went through my mind, and I had kind of decided I wasn't going to say anything, but then when I almost sat down before the pledge, well, just talking about it makes my blood pressure go up, but I wanted you to know why my mind was wandering.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, you have the agenda before you. Are there any additions, deletions?
Move to approve the agenda as is.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Okay. Item 1 on the agenda is the swearing-in ceremony for the Alexander County Board of Commissioners. And that would be Judge Dale Graham is going to swear in Commissioner Yoder and myself.
All right, very good. It's always an honor and a privilege for me to participate in these ceremonies. We'll just have, Hazel, you're going to hold the Bible for Larry, and Bible here for Ryan.
And I forgot to mention to my wife that I was being sworn in tonight, so Murphy's going to have to stand in.
You're going to pay for that later on the prayer.
Just keeps digging, doesn't it?
Left hand the Bible, raise your right, and if you'll repeat after me. I do solemnly affirm.
I do solemnly affirm.
That I will support the Constitution.
That I will support the Constitution.
Of the United States.
Of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I do solemnly and sincerely affirm.
I do solemnly and sincerely affirm.
That I will be faithful.
That I will be faithful.
And bear true allegiance.
And bear true allegiance.
To the state of North Carolina.
To the state of North Carolina.
And to the constitutional powers.
And to the constitutional powers.
And authorities.
And authorities.
Which are or may be established.
Which are or may be established.
For the government thereof.
For the government thereof.
and that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of the United States to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God. I do affirm that I will truly and well execute the duties of the office of County Commissioner for Alexander County according to the best of my skill and ability and according to law, so help me God. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Right, we gotta do one more. I have to be sworn in from the health board.
We've got one more swearing. Commissioner Yoder's also on the Alexander County Board of Health, so if you again raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of North Carolina,
of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
as a member of the Alexander County
as a member of the Alexander County
Board of Health,
Board of Health.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Judge Graham. We appreciate you swearing us in. Item 2 on the agenda is public comment. We have 2 people that have signed up. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak? Okay. Bud and Gary Same.
Mr. Commissioners, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. It's very brief. I'm Bud Kaywood. I'm chairman for Citizens for the Future of Alexander County, and I just wanted to publicly thank the Alexander County Board of Elections for their work in establishing the date for the election coming up on March the 19th. They set the date accordingly inside the time frame up to 120 days, and we appreciate that. It certainly is going to give the opportunity for all the residents of the county to take a long, hard look at the issues and the things that they need to determine. So we appreciate that. The second thing is CFAC recently met with Carolina Land and Lakes, RC and D, to talk about the possibility of a proposal for a biofuel feedstock depot in western North Carolina. And CFAC supports that, feels like it's a good opportunity for our county and certain economic impact possibilities. If you don't mind, I'd like to read the letter that we wrote back to that organization, if I may. It's very short. It is my pleasure to write a letter in support of the proposal, market analysis, and promotion of biofuel feedstock depot in western North Carolina being submitted to the Biofuel Center of North Carolina by Carolina Land and Lakes, RC&D, and Verdant Bioenergy. If the increased use of feedstocks to produce alternative fuels is to become a reality, more attention needs to be paid to logistics. How, for example, raw materials are shipped from farm to refinery, as well as the development of better ways of preparing the product for shipping. Having a regional biofuel feedstock depot in western North Carolina would give farmers a way of getting their crops to market and be willing to grow feedstock crops. It will also be a catalyst for creating new businesses in this area of the state. CFAC fully supports the feedstock depot project in our area and feel it will make a great impact to western North Carolina's economic recovery, along with helping our country utilize its resources in a way that benefits us all. I would hope that Alexander County would certainly consider that location here if possible. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item number 3, the election of the board chairman, and he said he did not. Okay. Election of the board chairman. Usually we do a one-year rotation on the chairman, and tonight will be my last official meeting as chairman of the board. So with that, I would like to recommend that we consider James Jennings as chairman for 2013. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I was wanting him to see what it's like for a 4-to-1.
I'm just waiting for it. I'm just waiting for it. That's okay.
I would have, Berkey.
Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Item 4 on the agenda is the election of board vice chairman.
I'd like to nominate Larry Yoder.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes unanimously.
Vote for yourself. I don't know.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, I guess you vote for yourself. I don't know.
So, congratulations.
And to answer Larry's question, yes, you vote for
I
yourself.
know. I'm just trying to get him to smile a little bit there.
Item 5 on the agenda, audit report for 2011-2012 budget year. Amber McGinnis was supposed to be here, but I believe she's under the weather.
Yes.
So Jennifer Herman is going to take her place.
Yes, I'd like to send Amber's apologies. Her son has the flu and she was not feeling well, so we decided it best if she would just stay home tonight and get well and take care of her son. She did meet with the Finance Committee about a week ago, so she has gone over the results with some of the county commissioners and the county manager and myself. Okay, we'll advance to the next slide.
Oh.
And you have a copy, I believe, in your packet. Again, Martin Starnes and Associates performed the audit for this year. There was an unqualified opinion, which that is the opinion that you would like to receive on your audit. And the auditor mentioned in the meeting with the Finance Committee cooperative staff, which includes my deputy finance director, the other people that work in the finance office, and there were no internal control findings. And the internal control includes testing of the procedures that are used for cash receipts and disbursements, payroll, and tax collections. And I also want to mention, it's not on that slide, but we received notice from the Local Government Commission today that the audit report has been reviewed and approved. So that is good news. They were a little bit behind this year, so we, like I said, we just received those results today so that we'll be able to go ahead and print the final hard copies to send to the different agencies that require a copy of the audit report. The next slide gives a picture of the revenues for the general fund. You'll see from the chart there, property taxes make up about 50% of the general fund revenues. Local option sales taxes, 19%, and restricted intergovernmental, which those are federal and state grants, that's about 15% of the general fund revenues. The next slide shows a comparison from last year to this year for property tax revenues. There was an increase of approximately $212,000 or 1.4%. Sales tax revenues increased approximately $492,000 or 9%. The increase from last year was mainly due to the Article 39 1-cent sales tax. That was an increase of $98,000. The Article 40 half-cent sales tax increased by $112,000, and the Medicaid hold harmless payment that comes to the county was approximately $183,000 more than last year. So for financial statement purposes, the Medicaid hold harmless is included in that sales tax figure. So when you see the total sales tax of approximately $5.8 million and you try to compare that to some of the reports that I've provided throughout the year, you'll see that that $5.8 million includes sales tax that is set aside for school debt service is $1,443,000. The sales tax that the county gets to keep for its own use is $3,520,000, and then the total of the Medicaid hold harmless money that comes to the county was $882,000. The restricted intergovernmental revenue, which we talked about, federal and state grants make up that category. There was a decrease of about 4% or $214,000. That was due to a decrease in a couple of state grants. There was a NCDWI grant that $165,000 was received in 2011, but that grant was just a one-time grant, so there was no grant money for that in 2012. Also, there was a change in the Department of Transportation grants that come through for the Western Piedmont Regional Transit Authority, which is also known as Greenway Transportation. Last year, in fiscal year 11, $149,000 worth of grants came to the county, and then we had to turn around and write a check to Greenway, but now those grants go directly to Greenway instead of passing through the county, so that's one of the reasons for that decrease. The next slide, expenditures for the general fund. Human services is about 31% of the total expenditures, public safety 23%, and education 18%. For the human services category, which includes health department, transportation, social services, and the senior center, there was a decrease of about 3% or $292,000. That's just due to some normal fluctuations in funding from year to year. Public safety includes the sheriff's department, jail, fire protection, emergency communications, inspections, and emergency medical services. There was an increase of about $568,000 or 9.4%, and we have some details regarding that on the next slide. The increase over last year was made up of several categories. In the sheriff's office, it increased by $312,000 due to salaries and benefits increase of about $181,000, which was 11.7%. There was also an increase in the capital outlay line item of $68,000, which was an increase of 51.3%. The capital outlay in fiscal year 12 included some used cars and equipment that were not included in last year's budget. In the jail, there was a $94,000 increase, which includes contract detention going up by 19.2%, which was $69,000. In fire protection, there was a $91,000 increase over last year. That was due to a non-cash grant that we had to recognize for accounting purposes as both capital outlay expense and revenue, and that was for some emergency management trailers and supplies. That was $56,000. And there was also some grant expense for emergency management training exercise, $28,000 in fiscal year 12, whereas zero for that item last year. And in EMS, there was an $80,000 increase, which the salaries and benefits increased $108,000 or 6.2% over last year. In education, which includes current expenses for the Board of Education, the auditorium reimbursement, and CVCC expense, there was approximately a $14,000 increase or less than 1%, and that increase was due to operating expenses that the county pays for CVCC. The next slide deals with fund balance, and that serves as a measure of the county's financial resources that are available for appropriation. Assets minus liabilities equals the fund balance. That's the simplest equation to break it down. There are 5 classifications, and they reflect a current accounting pronouncement that all governments in North Carolina had to implement in fiscal year 2011. So those classifications are non-spendable, which means it is not in a cash form, such as inventory; restricted fund balance, which there are external restrictions imposed by either laws or grant agencies; committed fund balance, there are internal constraints at the highest level, which is the governing board. Those constraints do not expire, and they would require the governing board's action to undo those constraints. assigned fund balance are internal constraints, but at a lower level than the committed. And unassigned means that fund balance, there are no external or internal constraints on that fund balance amount. An example, going back to the committed fund balance, would be a project ordinance or another ordinance adopted by the board that doesn't expire at the end of the year. And an example of assigned fund balance would be the appropriated fund balance in the next year's annual budget. Another slide about fund balance. The available fund balance is defined by the Local Government Commission, or LGC, as follows. You start with your total fund balance number, subtract the non-spendable fund balance, which is the one that's not in cash form, such as inventory. Then you subtract what's called stabilization by state statute. That is a formula that is in the state law that you're required to back out of your fund balance number to maintain, and it's not available to spend. And so that equals available fund balance. And when you get down to that available fund balance number, that's the calculation that's used by the Local Government Commission for comparing the county to other units, and also for calculating the fund balance percent. When you hear someone talk about your fund balance percent is a certain amount, that's the number they're talking about. The LGC looks for units to maintain an available fund balance percentage that's around the average for the population group, which we fall into the population group counties between 25,000 and 50,000 in population. On the next slide, we have audit results about fund balance. There was an increase in the general fund balance this year of $1,537,866. Our fund balance percentage is 29.49%, and we don't have the figures available for the average for our population group for fiscal year 12, but when you compare it to fiscal year 11, the average fund balance available was 26.24%. Our fund balance of 29.49% is a little over 3.5 months' worth of expenses. And as I mentioned earlier, the population group includes counties with populations of 25,000 to 50,000. And I just wanted to share with you some comments about the LGC's recommendations regarding fund balance. They look at that fund balance available for appropriation, and if the fund balance percent falls below half of the average for counties in our population group, that will require a plan of corrective action. That could include a letter from the chairman with detailed plans to improve the fund balance percentage, as well as providing monthly or quarterly financial reports to the LGC. If the county wants to borrow money for any projects, the fund balance percentage must be high enough to satisfy the LGC that the debt can be repaid while still continuing to maintain our operations. And no debt will be approved if the fund balance percent is below 8%, which that represents approximately 1 month's expenditures. And our current fund balance of 29.49%, again, as I mentioned, it represents 3.5 months of expenses. That adds financial stability so that the county can avoid cash flow difficulties, address unexpected expenditures, emergencies, or declines in revenues. Just to give you an idea of where we have been and how far we've come, we've improved from a fund balance percent of 2.1% in fiscal year 2002. That was the lowest fund balance percent in the state that year, where we are now at 29.49%, which is about the average for the counties in our population group. If we had not improved the fund balance percent to the most recent levels, we would not have been able to borrow the money for the new law enforcement center, school projects, or water projects. And for this year, fiscal year 2013, we have appropriated fund balance of approximately $2.9 million. Those funds to be used to mainly finish the new law enforcement center and to purchase the property near this building.
Jennifer, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
When you talk about this fund balance, that is the only time, if I'm not mistaken, that we've also received letters. I think we received letters maybe 3 years in a row there about how we need to continue to improve our fund balance.
At least 3 years in
I'm
a
thinking
row.
it's more than that, but I mean, I can remember 3 or 4, because when I first came on the board,
Right.
we received a letter the year that I was chairman. I remember that because it scared me.
since I've been here, we've received letters from 2002. I think the last one we got might have been fiscal year 2008
Right, that's what I was
or
thinking.
9. And
Okay.
we have been in the position where we had to send them monthly or quarterly financial statements
Right.
just so they could see that we were indeed making progress towards bringing that fund balance percentage
Right.
up.
And the reason I asked you that, the point that I'm trying to make here is to let folks know where we were at one time in our county and what we have done during hard economic times to make sure that our county is stable.
Right.
And it is very financially stable. That's the word I was wanting, the financial part. I didn't put it in there first time.
Right.
But I think people need to understand what we've done and how hard it's been. And, you know, there's a lot of folks that have been involved in this, and they're to be commended for that. But I appreciate you folks making sure you keep us on the right track. And I appreciate the job that Rick French has done as our manager in making sure that he keeps everything straight for this to happen. Because it's folks like you guys that know how to crunch the numbers to make things work so that they'll understand that our county is fiscally responsible and that we do take care of making sure that our county has the money that it needs to meet its obligations that we have to do by those mandates set by both state and federal government, and that we meet what the LGC makes us meet. And a lot of folks in the state of North Carolina and in the local counties don't understand that. They don't understand the obligations that you have to meet what the LGC wishes for you to have so that you can prosper as a county and not have to get those letters every month.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure I got that statement in, and now you continue, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
While he's got you paused, Jennifer, if I may, you mentioned the 8%. And the 8% is by statute. The statutes of North Carolina say every county shall maintain a minimum fund balance of 8%. The LGC does have the authority to raise that, and we've seen that happen, and I know you missed getting those letters from them, but they also have the authority, if you fall below 8%, and I think it happened when we got down in the 2% range, they can actually come in and take over the county government and
Yeah,
run it.
they have taken over some smaller towns, I know in the eastern part of the state when it got to be so bad, to make sure they were, you know, collecting their taxes, or even, I know they talked with us, they came to visit us a couple of years ago and told us about another county that they had to do a mid-year property tax increase because their fund balance had gotten so low. And so the LGC really does keep an eye on local governments in the state. Sometimes we don't like what they have to say, but they are really there to protect the safety and stability of those county and city governments. And so we are pleased that, you know, they've been able to help us see where we should go and that we've been able to achieve that.
And we've noticed too that as, since we got into the economic downturn, their percentages have gone up. You mentioned that the 26.24%, counties our size, round numbers 25% they're looking for, but have been, but a few years ago that was like 18%. And as economic conditions dictate, LGC will adjust what they're looking for to assure that there is stability. And Larry was, and I agree with Larry, Rick does a good job, but I also appreciate the job you and your staff do of making sure the numbers are right.
Thank you. On the next slide, we've got a few more comments about the fund balance position of the general fund. For fiscal year 12, the total fund balance, $11,277,563. If you subtract out the non-spendable, which in our case is not inventory but some prepaid expenses, $3,878. Then subtract the formula, the stabilization by state statute, $2,527,164. That brings our available fund balance to $8,746,521. You compare that to the available fund balance for 2011 of $7,609,531, and that is our increase in the available fund balance of $1,136,990. Moving on now to the solid waste fund, the cash generated from operations was $59,841, and the budgetary net income was $50,983. And that budgetary net income, it does not include depreciation expense or capitalization of fixed assets, so it is basically comparing your budget, which is cash items coming in and out. another slide about the solid waste fund, the net assets, which the definition of net assets is assets minus liabilities. The total net assets for the solid waste fund, $481,073. We subtract what's called invested in capital assets, net of related debt, $792,700. Bring us down to the unrestricted net assets, which is a negative figure, $311,627. But I don't want anyone to be misled by the parentheses around that number. We have assets in excess of the liabilities for the solid waste fund, but that excess, which is the net assets, it can't be spent because it's tied up in land, buildings, vehicles, and equipment. So the assets are there to carry on the operations and produce income, but they're not spendable, so that's why those are backed out. So that's why that unrestricted net assets has the parentheses around it. The water funds, Bethlehem Water Fund, cash from operations, $323,238. The budgetary net income is $175,208. Again, the budgetary net income number doesn't include depreciation expense or capitalization of fixed assets. The county water and sewer fund, cash from operations, $660,369. And the budgetary net loss, $289,365. That one, the county water and sewer fund, it's everything that's not in the Bethlehem Water Fund, and it included several projects this year where there were expenditures that show as an expenditure for budgetary purposes, but they're really capitalized assets, so that's why that number is in parentheses there. The net assets for the water funds. For Bethlehem, the total net assets, $1,572,055. Again, we subtract out the number that invested in capital assets, net of related debt, meaning your land and buildings and equipment. You subtract $761,944. The unrestricted net assets, $810,111. County water and sewer fund, the total net assets, $9,840,239. Subtract the invested in capital assets, $9,025,306. For the total unrestricted net assets, $814,933. And again, the unrestricted net assets, it means that's your net assets after taking out the land and buildings and equipment that can't be spent. The required debt service for this past year for Bethlehem Water was $190,638. That debt will be paid off in the year 2018. For the county water and sewer fund, the required debt service for this year was $270,749. That debt will be paid off in 2028. The Bethlehem Water District, that debt originally was to be paid off in the year 2030. It was a 40-year debt, but it was refinanced in 2003, and that moved up the debt payoff to 2018. Again, I'd like to thank Martin Starnes and Associates for their help with our financial statements and making sure that we can present a report to the Local Government Commission that's in accordance with their rules and regulations. I have time for questions if you have any, or I'd be glad to answer any, later if you think of some.
Jennifer, I just wanted to point out about the fund balance. When I came on the board, the first year I was on the board, we were still getting the letters from the Local Government Commission. So we've worked very hard to bring that fund balance up to stabilize the funds of this county. And everybody needs to be thanked. Department heads, you guys, Rick French, our finance department, other commissioners, past commissioners. It's been a lot of hard work, I know. But the fund balance right now is 29.4%. That equals out to about 3.5 months of safety net there.
Mm-hmm.
In 2002, we had 2.1%, and that was less than 1 week. Is that correct?
Yes.
So if anything would have happened,
Yes,
you'd have been in serious trouble.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer, just a comment. It's been said, but I'd like to also say it to commend you and Rick French for the job you've done. Not to make light of a serious situation, because the financial stability of the county is very important. But if I call and asked for Rick, and either Judy or Jamie answers the telephone. They said that Rick is downstairs in finance, but that's good. But y'all have done a magnificent job taking us from where Mr. Mayberry said we were to where we are now, which enabled us to borrow the money to build the new law enforcement center, and also borrow the money to buy the land to expand the community college. So again, magnificent job to you and Rick, and really appreciate the efforts y'all have done.
Thank you.
I got one comment. I'll make it quick so Larry can follow up. The sales tax report is accurate, but a few years ago, in their wisdom, the state of North Carolina changed our Article 42 sales tax from a tax that was distributed per capita to a point of sales tax. And in Alexander County, there was a total, well, across the state of North Carolina, there was a total of half cents that was generated in sales tax that was designated to schools. We had used that, and a big chunk of that was Article 42 tax. We had used that to finance school projects. Well, when the folks in Raleigh decided to make that a point of sales tax, that essentially destroyed the value of that tax in Alexander County, because when they did that, they put a hold harmless provision in there for the schools and for the municipalities, in this case down at Taylorsville. So that tax actually cost us money out of our general fund rather than assisting our general fund.
Yes.
Now, we would probably have done the school projects and so on anyway, but the fact that the state changed the distribution of a sales tax that was in place has put a very severe burden on small counties such as Alexander.
Yes.
Larry will bring it up. We're trying to get it changed, but there's a lot more of them than there are of us. So if anybody has an opportunity to talk with any of the folks in Raleigh, Article 42 sales tax needs to be changed to a per capita distribution the way it was created.
Right. And that's one of the things that needs to happen. We need to make sure that people talk to their representative and also their senator, because it's vitally important to small communities that, small counties, that we get it back to per capita instead of point of sale. It's very important. It'd be hard because those large counties outnumber us, and they do stick together, and they do not want to hear you even say that when you go to these meetings in Raleigh. They don't even want to hear that. With that being said, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we accept the financial report as stated.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
All right, item number 6 on the agenda, Alexander County Treasurers. We call on Lee Sharp and the Alexander History Group. Great, thank you.
Chairman Mayberry, fellow commissioners and staff, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and to share some information about the history book. I'm Lee Sharp, and with me is Kent Curley and Marie Chapman. We are the members of the Alex History Group, which is the group for the last few years that has coordinated this project and hopefully has it to this particular point in a satisfactory manner. Alexander County Treasures, a history of remarkable people and precious gems. This is a 368-page book, and it is a direct result of the Board of Commissioners in 1996. They commissioned the book. Those commissioners included Tim Glass, Phil Eichert, Guy Curley, Fred Leike, and Craig Mayberry. Then we have to thank you, the current Board of Commissioners, for moving forward with the printing of the book, which you did earlier this year. And I point out that really the real treasures of this book are the people of Alexander County, the true treasures. And speaking first will be Marie on behalf of our group.
On December the 10th, a dream has come true for Lee, Kent, and myself, as well as for many others who have contributed to the project of Alexander the finished project of history of Alexander County, namely Alexander County Treasures. It would be impossible to name all of those who have contributed to this endeavor. We have traveled around the county, speaking with persons who possess knowledge and facts that are unknown to many. We're thankful for the input from these people in the county. Alexander County sports many beautiful mountains and valleys, along with lakes and free-running streams. We're fortunate to be permitted to tour Dr. Hart's village over in Hickory, and a private visit with him. There was nobody else there but us. And he gave us a tour of his village, and we've learned some really nice things there. My fondest memory of that visit was when he ferried us across the lake to visit an old church that had been moved and refurbished. The church was furnished in ancient seats. The church was very old, and it had an old organ in it, an old pedal organ. I asked him if it was still operable, and he said, yes, it is. Can you make music? I said, yes, I can. So I sat down at that pump organ, worked a little while to get it to going, and played a little tune. We enjoyed that. Dr. Hart also showed us several cabins that had been moved from Alexander County and restored in his village. One incident that I would rather not have seen was when we returned from the ferry ride. Dr. Hart's cat was sitting under a tree, and Dr. Hart looked down and asked the cat if it was hungry. She didn't answer, but he proceeded to take his fishing line out of a tree and quickly caught her a fish, laid it out on the ground, took a knife and cut it in two and fed it to her. Lastly, I would like to express my appreciation to you all for your support of this project. We appreciate your interest and your financial assistance, and hope that you will enjoy reading the book as much as we've enjoyed putting it together. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Kent Curley, and I also thank you for your support for this project. Just a little bit about the history of the history book. It had its genesis in the sesquicentennial celebration. A committee was formed. The committee, as Lee mentioned, asked the commissioners for a startup grant, received those monies, and the project started. The history book was initially chaired by Clara Shook with Tim Glass, Opal Harrington, Lee Sharp, and myself on the committee. We've had various contributors to the book, and so therefore there is no author listed, but there are several contributors listed on one of the first pages. The book, just to mention about the grant money, we're in the process, of course, now of selling the book, so for all of you and you who need copies for yourself and for your Christmas giving, we brought a few here tonight to sell if anybody's interested. And with those monies, we will hopefully soon be able to pay back the county the initial startup money. The book is divided into 19 sections. The first section just deals with the land and the natural resources, the flora and fauna, the topography, the climate, and so on. And the second chapter deals with the early Americans, and we acknowledge Barry Johnson's contribution to helping us with that chapter. We discuss the early pioneers and settlers in the third chapter, and obviously we couldn't talk about every of our grandfathers and great-grandfathers that came into the county in those early days, but we hope that the history is a representative of those early pioneers. The Revolutionary War is the next chapter, followed by the formation of the state. Even though Alexander County wasn't formed until 1847, in this chapter we still examine the education, the early courts, roads, making living, churches, post offices, and so forth. The next chapter, chapter 6, deals with the formation of the county and the county seat in Taylorsville. Chapters 7 and 8 examine the county's contribution to what was going on in the forefront, on the home front, during and immediately after the Civil War. And those first 8 chapters are pretty much in chronological order. And then chapter 9, we examine the railroad and the impact of the railroad to the county and the cotton mills. So that's not exactly in chronological order, but is an important part of our history. Chapter 10 deals with the last part of the 19th century, the resorts, the court cases, education, newspapers, and things that were going on during the late part of the 1800s. Chapter 11 deals mainly or specifically with Hidnite, both the gym and the community itself. Chapter 12 is examining the first part of the 20th century, including such things as the 1916 flood and Lucas House and items like that. The next chapter is on World War I, followed by the next chapter of the Roaring Twenties, Prohibition, Rocky Face Quarry, Oxford Dam, and so on. Chapter 15 deals with the Depression years and the effects of the Depression on the county, followed by the next chapter is World War II, and after World War II, then it deals with the history up to 1997, which includes the bicentennial, the community development, the clubs and organizations in the county, the hospital, new businesses and manufacturing, and the high school. The 18th chapter deals with culture, and culture is a broad spectrum from sports and special events and recreation and cultural opportunities of today. Then the last chapter brings us up to the present and discussing the ups and downs of the economy, the new prison, agriculture, and other items. We do thank you for your support, and we hope that it meets with your approval.
Thank you.
The stated aim of the book is basically to provide a living history based on documented facts and oral histories. As Kent said earlier, it's impossible to include every name, event, and every detail. However, the writing seeks to give a feeling and a taste of the lives and the region of Alexander County. These precious gifts form part of Alexander County's rich heritage and history. One of the features of the book is that basically each chapter begins with a featured photograph. Featured photograph beginning on chapter 1 is a photograph of Ball Rock Mountain. It shows a rustic barn, hay fields, or a hay field with hay bales in there, taken in the fall with the foliage on the mountain in the background. Kent mentioned earlier that chapter 2, Native Americans, we do have a drawing created by Barry Johnson, an educator here in Alexander County, and it talks about the Native Americans. Skipping over to the last chapter, it has a photograph, a color photograph of 4 Alexander Central High School graduates in cap and gown with a yellow rose, representing the recent past as well as the future. Another feature of the book is a detailed index in the back of the book. For example, on page 278, there's a notation in the back of the book about Darrell Robertson. Well, I would share with you that he's one of the longest-serving county commissioners in county history, but this particular photograph of him shows him in leadership training as a member of the 4-H, making a presentation in that photograph there, which truly was leadership training for the position that he holds today. There's a young lady in there, Hazel Adams. You might know her as Hazel Yoder on page 279, Larry. So I point a couple of those things out because the index is valuable in being able to look up things very quickly. On page 283, we have a photograph of the outside of this building that we're meeting in tonight. On 271, there's a sidebar article that Berkey certainly can relate to. It's about his father, John Ray Jennings, mayor of Taylorsville for 22 years, county attorney for a number of years. On page 208 and 209, there's features about first for women, first judge, first county commissioner, first attorney in the county. And then there's a lot of recent material on other pages, Rocky Face Mountain Park, Alexander Industrial Park. So we simply wanted to give you a little glimpse as to what is in the book, say thank you, and encourage you to read and enjoy. Thank you.
Lee, I just want to point out too, I've kind of skimmed the book, and with the holidays coming up, there's a great recipe in the book that my grandfather wrote for the Presbyterian Church cookbook, and it's possum and taters. So if any of you feel like that you want to cook a possum for Christmas dinner, there's a recipe for possum and taters in that.
That's my grandfather's favorite meal, and he's 106, so it must be doing something right.
Start eating possum later. Mr. Chairman, I look forward to getting a copy of the book. I just opened the book as it was coming down, and I opened to page 204, and immediately it flashed through my mind, why, Mr. World-famous race car driver, what are you doing in Alexander County? Were you getting driving experience running out of Wilkes? And I suspect as you take the book and open it up, you'll see a lot of those things that tie into Alexander County that we hadn't thought about. And I appreciate what all of y'all have done. Now, 1996 was not so long ago, just sitting here figuratively speaking, but to have the commitment and the dedication to stick with this project, to see it through, I salute you, all of you, and those who have worked with you through this period of time to get this pulled together, because it wasn't an easy task. Thank you for what you've done.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say to the Lee and Mr. Curley and I can't remember names sometimes, but I know Mrs. Chapman. Well, I was going to call her by her first name. I knew Mrs. Chapman. But I just want to tell you folks, I think shows a tremendous success on your folks' part to make sure this book is complete. And there's nothing better than reading about the history of the county that you live in, or the history of the state of North Carolina, or the United States, and knowing what the people in this county has gone through and what's happened in this county. A lot of people don't understand. There's still people in this county today, you ask them, you know, who was named, why was Alexander County named? And they're still arguing over it. So I think it's absolutely fantastic that you folks have done this, that you've succeeded in it, and we've got it finished, and I didn't have anything to do with it. I just say that we, because you folks are citizens of this county, and I appreciate the tremendous effort that you put through to make sure that this book has been a success. And I will buy a copy. I don't think I'll probably have a choice, but I will buy a copy.
I might add that basically it is available at the Taylorsville Times office, at the locations of Taylorsville Savings and Bank, in Taylorsville, Bethlehem, and Hidnight, also at Custom Frame Crafters, can be ordered by mail as well. So I failed to mention that earlier.
It'll be on the Taylorsville Times website also?
Yes.
Okay.
Just one question, and if you don't know the answer to it, that's fine, because there's a lot of pages in the book, but is it mentioned in there that Commodore Vanderbilt was looking to buy land in Alexander County? Yes. And if he had struck that deal, Biltmore might have been over
That's
here.
featured in the book in some detail.
We'd had all that to handle now.
On top of Lennox Mountain.
That is in the book. Okay.
Yes.
All right. It's worth getting just to see what didn't happen to us.
Absolutely. I think, you know, there's a lot of things there that folks don't know about that could have happened, that possibly, you know, due to the circumstances not working out the way they should have, that a lot of history in this county, you know? And some people call us catfish and call us other things, but not all of us are catfish. So, you know, some of us do have some education and understand things and want to know about the history of our county. And I just want you folks to know that I'm extremely proud of you and extremely proud of that committee. And I'm proud of the commissioners that are here before that had the foresight to make sure that they gave you the funding to make sure that this book happened. And thank you very much.
Ken, I just want to know when you're going to start on volume 2.
Well, I've already got some ideas about it.
No, the reason I said that, I know how much work that Ken and Marie and Lee put into it, and I have already purchased my copy. I think I pre-subscribed to a copy, and and I read the draft that Ken had done, and it's just a wonderful read. There's so many things that I didn't know about Alexander County. For example, the Moravians were some of the first explorers of Alexander County, and they were looking for a place to settle and had gotten a land grant from Lord Granville before North Carolina was actually a state. And all of that information is in the book. I mean, it's a great history book that should be required reading in the high schools or in the school system for the people to understand. So y'all done a magnificent job. I really appreciate it.
If, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, we have 3 members of the committee here, and on behalf of them and everybody that worked with them, let's give them a hand.
Yeah. I agree. Thank you very much.
Mike, I think it's only fair, since Lee's here tonight, I think it's only fair to take a picture of these folks and make sure it's in the paper.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really good, because it'd also be good advertisement for the book, and would assist, because I know it'll go on the webpage also. I think it'd be great if you folks don't mind doing that, holding a picture, because you get 3 copies and holding the book up. Would y'all do that for us and do it for the citizens? I think it'd be absolutely fantastic.
Lee, would you mind doing one favor, though? I know the folks at home that are watching this cannot really see the cover, but can you stand up and describe the cover and who's in it and why?
The dust jacket, which is the full color covering of the book, really is a project that we developed after we determined the name of the book. We decided on Alexander County Treasures, and by virtue of that particular title, as I stated earlier, we felt that the real treasures of Alexander County were its people. And so to find something reflective of that, we brainstormed a little bit and contacted Amber Wallace, who is a professional photographer. She has had some of her work on State Magazine and several other things. Very talented individual. She and I sat down together and started brainstorming, and she said, well, we need a treasure chest. And we were at the office, newspaper office, and just happened that I had my mother's treasure chest there, and I said, well, let me go get this and show it to you. So I showed her the treasure chest, and she went through it, and she said, this is perfect. So we decided to go with that and added a few other things to it. Mr. Wren Adams, who was 92 years old at the time and resided on the property where Hidnite was first found. He was the owner of that particular property and the Hidnite mine. We asked him to be involved. He brought a specimen of a gem there, and then we asked Raymond and Joanne Curley to be involved. Marie asked Josh Bullock to be involved, and I asked my granddaughter, Taylor Sharp, to be involved. And Marie also brought her dog along to go in the picture, because dogs are important to a lot of us folks from that standpoint. So we ended up with apples. We ended up with a copy of the gem that has been donated to the North Carolina Museum, valued in several $1 million of the total gems that were presented there. We have a picture of the Mountain Scout. We have a picture of a public school register, which happened to be the Mount Hermon School in the Ellendale community that my mother taught at in 1926 and 27. Mr. Carl Sipe was a student in her class at that particular time. So that's part of how this came together. We added some apples and There's an old wash pot here, several other artifacts, bonnets. We have a chair here, which was a Ms. Curley brought from that standpoint from her parents, the Rogers, and it was a gift to them when they built their house in 1909. So there's a lot of history behind that. The photograph was actually taken on the Smith farm, and it is a century farm. And Amber went over there with us and took it on her father's property, and that property has been in that family for more than 100 years. So is that enough detail?
That's good. That's good. I think it's a great picture.
You want to get your picture?
Need to pass that book down so all three of them can have a book
Oh,
in
yeah.
their hands there. I mean, not telling you what to do anything.
That picture better turn out good.
Yep.
I was just thinking that.
If anybody had any influence at the Taylorsville Times, might get that picture on the front page.
That might be hard to do, you think?
That's the reason I wanted to bring it up tonight, Lee.
But thank you, folks.
Thanks a lot. That's great. Great stuff. You can't now, you can get a full night's sleep maybe one time.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item number 7 on the agenda, the DSS Angel Tree Project update. Calling Cindy Holman, DSS Director.
Good evening. I brought the experts with me tonight. We're going to give you a little update on our Angel Tree Project and also an update on our energy crisis programs. And we're going to start with Trina Riddle, our own DSS Angel.
I don't know about that, but good afternoon. I thought I was going to have to come begging for money, but thanks to Micah and his article in the paper, I do not need to beg for money tonight. But I do want you to help me, and a round of applause for Micah, our Mr. Santa Claus, because if not for him, I wouldn't have raised enough money.
That would be a good idea, Cindy.
That picture needs to be in the paper.
On the front page.
Make him get up there.
Get up here.
Yeah. Lee,
Micah.
tell him.
Take the picture from up here in front of the press.
Yeah, there you go. Cindy, get up there. Come on, Matt. Get over there.
Be bashful, come on.
Don't let your face turn red now, Micah.
Yeah. Yeah. Smile a little bit, Michael.
You know, Liberty has that breakfast every second Saturday.
That's fantastic.
I have more. Like Cindy said, I'm in charge of the Angel Tree Project at DSS. My staff, which is about 8 other people, they also helped me a lot with this program or it would not get accomplished. This year, we had 500 children apply for assistance, and out of that 500, 44 were on the school list, so I took them off of mine. I compare lists with the school counselors, and if they're on the school list, then I take them off my list so that we're not double dipping. 8 of those were taken by the Foster Care Association. An additional 154 are covered by local churches. 26 are covered by local businesses. 157 children were taken by just individuals that called me and said, I'd like to sponsor a child, county employees, DSS staff. And then I had 28 that were screened out because they either did not live in our county or the person that applied was not the caretaker of the child. It could have been the absent parent or a grandparent that was just wanting help with Christmas. And our policy is it has to be the parent that applies for the child or whoever they're living with, their primary caretaker. Out of that left us 83 children who needed something for Christmas, and we did a Porta Pit fundraiser on November 13th, which raised $2,500 to help cover those children. And I also received $2,910 in donations from businesses and individuals. Once Micah's article went out, just in the last week, I've received $900. So I think that is great, and I really appreciate his help. I want to thank our community, our generous community, that even in a time of economic downturn, they rise to the occasion to help their neighbors in need. I've received lots, like I said, lots of phone calls and donations after his article went out. Out of the 83 that are left, I think I have enough money now to cover them, but we only spend $50 per child. So that includes, we try to make sure we get clothes. And I get toys from Toys for Tots, what's left over, and so we try to put some toys with what we buy, but we want to make sure they have coat and clothes and shoes, and a lot of them ask for socks. I've also had a lot of families calling me that did not get in by our deadline, which I've had to turn away, but I did tell them that they could call me back on the 20th because he's going to bring me another load of toys from Toys for Tots, and I would help them with toys. I told them that would be all I could do at this time, but I could at least do that. We have currently started having pickups, and we're hoping that all our referred families will have their presents by December 19th, which is a Wednesday. And I encourage anyone that would like to help, they can contact me at Social Services if they want to make a donation or if they want to help with a specific child. I try to match up the age with the child, but right now I mostly have teenagers left. Do you have any questions?
No, I just think it's a magnificent endeavor that you're undertaking, that you're coordinating, so I appreciate that.
It's one of the few things we do that you feel really good about. And it makes you feel really good when a parent comes and they're crying and they thank you for just what little bit you've done. And like I said, we couldn't do it without the help of the community or my staff. They're really great. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Trina.
And I did want to add one more thing. We couldn't possibly tonight mention everyone who helps, and you heard her mention a list, and we have churches, individuals, organizations. But just to tell you how the article affected us this afternoon, I had a call from someone in the community who is going to give us $2,500 to buy bicycles. So, and they called and they said, we read it in the paper and we know you need some help. So we just wanted to recognize Micah because I think he recognizes us most of the time, and we really do appreciate what the paper does for us.
We don't know who that person is. But I tell you what, let's just do this. Why don't we just say right here, whoever it was that gave the $2,500, we'll just give them a hand. That is fantastic. But this community's always been real good to rise to the occasion.
It has.
They always have.
And it's a tough time right now. We had lots of churches to just tell us that they needed to help the people in their own congregation this year instead of helping us out. So it is a tough time, but you know, this county is very generous. They're great people.
And go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I thought you were done. I was going to just give another phone number here.
Okay, you want to give
Yeah, I was
Trina's
just going to tell,
out?
Trina's phone number is 632-1080, extension 306. So if you want to make a donation, please contact her.
And then Matt Reese is with us, and he's going to give us an update on our energy crisis programs.
Good afternoon. Yes, I wanted to come to you ladies and gentlemen and just bring you an update on our energy programs. I know in the past, I've brought the information to you as far as how our programs and the funding have been cut. Wanted to give you a status. In the crisis intervention program, we at this time are currently out of funding for that particular program. We have been out since right around the Thanksgiving holidays. In times past, throughout the time of the year, we generally would get additional allocations of funding, but at this time, we're unable to guarantee that we may get additional fundings. The next program that I want to bring you an update on is what we call the LEAP program. It's the Low Income Energy Assistance Program. This program as well suffered severe cutbacks, as I have in the past mentioned. We began taking applications for this program on December the 3rd, and we began with $54,294. As of this afternoon, we currently have $22,294. We've spent roughly a little over more than half of our allotment in 1 week. I have seen a drastic pullback in that. The first 2 days that we opened, or that this program become available to the citizens of our county, on day one, we had roughly over 100-some individuals in our lobby. As the week progressed on, it dwindled down. I think today we may have seen 2 individuals that had applied for this program. The population of our county that is able to apply at this time through January the 31st is households that have at least one member that's age 60 and over, or if they have individuals in the home that are disabled and, this is crucial, and receiving services through the Division of Aging and Adult Services. We had probably, I think I roughly had maybe 3 or 4 individuals that had came in on day one that had been informed that if they were disabled, they could apply. But unfortunately, that's not the only criteria. They have to be receiving services through the Division of Aging and Adult Services. So I come to you tonight on that note to bring that, but as well as to those that are at home and watching and are maybe unsure of, give us a call. We are going to continue taking applications for this program until the funding is depleted. If any funding remains available in this program, as of February the 1st of 2013, we will then open it up to all other households in our county that would be able to apply. We've had several telephone calls that have come through to our agency since Ms. Holman had spoke with you guys last month. And, while the economy is somewhat still of a challenge, we still, just like what we've heard with the Angel Tree, we've still got individuals that are wanting to try to help in any way that they can. And so we've received numerous telephone calls there from different individuals that are willing to try to help in whatever manner that they may be able to. Did want to remind you that I'm not going to be coming back each month to give an update. Just wanted to keep you, ladies and gentlemen, aware of what is going on. Good news is our temperatures have been unseasonably mild, about in the 60s for about the past week and a half. So the demand, it's not been quite there, but, just wanted to keep everyone as informed as I possibly can.
Matthew, are you saying that individuals can make donations to social service for this fund? Is that what you're saying?
People may in whatever manner that they choose.
It does not, a donation does not go into the LEAP fund or the crisis intervention program, but certainly a donation could come to the agency and could be administered by the agency as without program. We couldn't use the program
Right.
guidelines, but we could use it to help people that can't meet the program guidelines.
Okay, so maybe what you were suggesting is individuals just to help people on their own.
And if someone called us and said, I have a load of wood that I'm willing for someone to pick up, but I'd like for it to be somebody that y'all think needs some help, we'll certainly do that. We make a list of those families that would be willing to help somebody and just have that family call and pick up that wood.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 8, designation of voting delegate for Legislative Goals Conference. Calling Rick French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, we need to designate a voting delegate for the upcoming North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Legislative Goals Conference, which will be held January 24th and 25th. And if one of the commissioners is willing to attend,
I will be attending that goal session.
they just need to be designated by the board tonight.
I make a nomination that we designate Larry Yoder as our voting delegate.
Got a second? Is there any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Item number 9 on the agenda, the 2013 Alexander County Commissioners meeting schedule. Call on myself. Commissioner Robertson had sent an email out today wanting to add some work sessions to that. Do you have any dates for those particular work sessions?
Mr. Chairman, I suggest we put a work session in January, April, August, September, October, and November. And that would allow us a work session which would take some things that take a lot of time, need some discussion, that we could cover those. If we had an extended agenda show up for a meeting, we could convert a work session to a commissioners meeting. And if we didn't have anything, of course, the work session could be canceled. But I would suggest that we add a work session to January, April, August, September, October, and November.
Is that in form of a motion?
I'll make it a form of a motion to make that amendment to this
I'll second.
schedule.
Okay, I'd like to add, can we go ahead and put some dates on that, just that we can change later?
I've got the dates, if you want
You've
to.
got some dates, what do you suggest?
January 21st, which is April 22nd, August 19th, September 23rd, October 21st, November 18th.
That's fine.
Those are 2 weeks and gives us
What was
the same.
September and
September 23rd, October 21st. Is everyone agreeable to that?
So, do any of those dates interfere with the NACO,
No, do not.
not the March conference, but the summer conference?
No, they
It's
do
in
not.
July.
Okay,
They
thank
do
you.
not. That's
I
in-
just want to make sure.
All those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, item number 10, the Alexander County 2013 holiday schedule. I'm going to read these off. New Year's Day, January 1st, 2013. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, January 21st, 2013. Good Friday, March 29th. Memorial Day, May 27th. Independence Day, July 4th. Labor Day, September 2nd. Veterans Day, November 11th. Thanksgiving, which is November 28th and 29th. And Christmas, December 24th and 25th.
Well, do you realize that the work session was set on Martin Luther King Day, and that's a holiday
We can
for everybody
change that
does?
one.
Yeah, we'll change
They
that.
changed that work day.
I just thought the county office won't even be open.
Move to approve the holiday schedule as presented.
Second.
Is there any, got a motion and a second? Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item number 11 on the agenda, board appointments and reappointments, calling Rick French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appoint Guy Curley for 2 years for Alexander County Tax Administrator, Collector. Appoint Doug Fox, 2 years, Alexander County Tax Assessor. The Local Emergency Planning Committee, reappoint Michael Kerrigan, 3 years, Steve Eisenhower, Keith Whitener, Randy Bumgarner, Micah Henry, John McCurdy, and appoint Keith Hertzler for 3 years.
I'll make a motion, we accept these recommendations.
I second it.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item 12 on the agenda, budget ordinance amendments, number 23 through 26. Rick French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Budget Amendment 23 is to increase Senior Center budget for expected increase in collections for Senior Center activities, to decrease the Senior Center budget for reduced Senior Center general purpose grant funding, to decrease the Senior Center budget for reduced Senior Health Insurance Information Program grant funding. Budget Amendment 24 that you have is several pages, but it's to transfer funds between departments for allocation of annual insurance premiums for property and liability and workers' compensation. Number 25 is for the Solid Waste Fund to transfer funds between departments for allocation of annual insurance premiums for property and liability and workers' comp. 26 is to transfer funds for allocation of annual insurance premiums for property and liability and workers' comp. That's all. Be glad to try to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item number 13, the county manager's report. Rick French, county manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have my report. Only item I would mention is on Saturday, we had a community meeting regarding the proposed changes to the master plan for Rocky Face Mountain Recreation Area. And we had that at 1 o'clock. I believe we had about 15 people attend, and I just wanted to provide that update. And for sake of time, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. French. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I know that at the beginning you asked for commissioner's report.
Yes.
I would just like to say one thing. I should have said something prior to, but as everyone knows, in North Carolina, we've had 2 folks who have passed away due to the flu, and all across the state of North Carolina and through different health departments, they're urging people to please get the flu vaccine. I think it's one of those years where it's going to be imperative that people get the vaccine and need to make sure they get that so that they'll remain healthy. And I think this is that year that it's going to affect a lot of people, and you can get that shot at the Alexander County Health Department or at your local physician. So I urge folks to take heed.
Thank you.
Larry, Mr. Chairman, if I may, will add to that, in talking to Leanne Wilson at the Health Department too, one of the other diseases, if you will, that's making a comeback is whooping cough. And there's a vaccination for diphtheria, tetanus, and whooping cough, and I'm not going to say the acronym because I'll get it wrong, but I have had it. But in talking to the health director, that's another vaccination that folks my age and older really need to have. I mean, I read an article in the paper about it, but I didn't have any idea that I would be susceptible to it. So I would encourage people to go to the health department and get that whooping cough vaccination also.
That's also important if you're around young children and so on.
Yes.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. We do need to have a closed session per North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A, 145 and 6 to prevent the disclosure of confidential information, economic development, contractual, and personnel. I make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously.